Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today's video is going to be another Wellness Wednesday, and I thought I would talk about my COVID story. If you are new here, hi, how are you? I am Alexis. I am a single mom of two. I have been documenting my journey to independence, financial independence, emotional, physical independence, all around, just getting my life together. If that is something you are interested in, subscribe to my channel. It's free. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video, and then give this video a thumbs up so that YouTube knows to promote this channel. COVID. I tested positive for COVID July 18th. I want to preface this that I am not trying to do any political propaganda. This is absolutely 100% personal for me. It's not political. So I'm not encouraging or discouraging anybody to do anything. Get the vax, don't get the vax. It is completely up to you, in my opinion, and that's how I'm going to remain. As far as me go, I did not have the vaccine at the time when I received COVID. My very first symptom that I can recognize was I had a sore throat on July 15th. At the time, I had just started drinking apple cider vinegar shots. Like in the morning, I'd put it in some water. It's supposed to help like with weight loss and just kind of leveling things out. And I've done it in the past before. It is very acidic, and sometimes it has caused me to have a sore throat. So that's kind of what I thought it was from, was that. Especially since the very next day, I no longer had a sore throat, but I did have a fever. Now, in hindsight, you can say the two symptoms together should have made me think it was COVID. But honestly, I did not see them as symptoms together. I thought they were two completely isolated situations. Friday, I went to work. I work from home, so I got up and went and worked for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and then I pretty much slept the whole day, slept the whole weekend. I had already been working with my primary care physician because I was trying to lose weight, and I wanted to make sure that my body was physically capable of doing exercises and, dieting and things like that. And so I had emailed her on Saturday when I woke up and my fever hadn't come down yet. I'd emailed her and said, hey, I'm coming down with the fever. And on Sunday, she got back to me and told me if it goes above 100.5, go to the emergency room. And again, that was because I was already dealing with previous things with her. And so she was concerned that, that it was something from that. When I went, so at this point, when I had gotten her email telling me to go in, I had already had a fever of 105. It wasn't coming down. I am more of a naturopath. So when I had a fever or I have a headache or things like that, I don't generally go to medicine. And so because of that, I wasn't really taking Tylenol or ibuprofen or anything to reduce my fevers. I was just resting it off, drinking some water, trying to more natural approach. When she told me to go in at that point, though, I did. It was about 5 o'clock on the 18th. And when I went in, the emergency room was semi-empty when I walk in. And I remember, like, before COVID, going to the emergency room, you could wait in the emergency room for hours before you got seen by anybody. I was immediately shown to a room where they did my blood pressure, checked my temperature, started an IV drip because at that point my fever was still at 103.5. And then after that, I was escorted to a private room. This obviously, again, with all the symptoms and signs, it's probably more related to COVID, the treatment that I had received, because of how contagious it is. You don't really want somebody who potentially has COVID to be in the lobby with other sick patients or, even people with their kids or whatever. So I totally understand why I had gotten moved along. At this point, I did kind of have an idea that it was COVID. Symptom check, I had sore throat. I had experienced a sore throat. I had a fever. At one point in time, I had thrown up. Again, I treated all of those as isolated things, but by the time that I had gotten to the emergency room, I recognized that these are probably all together and they equal COVID. When I saw a physician inside the emergency room, He explained to me, hey, I think it's COVID. Your symptoms do kind of match with that. And this is kind of what it looks like to us. But we're going to get a chest x-ray. We're going to test you for COVID. We're going to test you for strep. We'll see what's going on. So they tested me for all of those things. I did not get the results of those until the next day, but they did do a chest x-ray, and the x-ray, he says, okay, it looks like somebody who has COVID. So even if your results come back and say that you're negative, please still quarantine because it's a false negative. You have it. He also told me that I had pneumonia, and so I was going to be receiving antibiotics for that as well. My only question to the physician was, what do I do? Because for a year and a half at this point, all I had heard was COVID equals, hospital beds and ventilations. And, you're telling me that I'm walking and talking just fine. So you think I'm going to be just fine. But while I'm home, quarantining, what am I supposed to do? How do I guess my fear was, how do I increase my chances of surviving this thing? Right. I didn't get an answer. I still have yet to receive an answer of what I was supposed to do. Dr. Google had given me a list of things that I'm supposed to do. Don't rest all day, do rest all day, take zinc, drink water, drink lemon. It's just a whole list of things that I was supposed to be doing. But no doctor or physicians were able to help me. I stayed at the hospital for about 5 hours. And then I was able to go home. At this point, it was almost midnight and I just went to sleep. It was Monday. I woke up, went and logged into the computer for work, worked as long as I could. At this point, I still had a fever. My fever was still semi there. But I think the medications that they were giving me were also helping that come down. And then I had also noticed that my taste was completely gone. I could not taste foods. If I could, food was either too salty or it was way too sweet. Water tastes like lead, or what I think lead should taste like. It was rough. Eventually, 3 or 4 days after that, I started putting lemon juice in my water, and somehow that balanced out the taste of the lead I was experiencing. But even then, after putting lemon juice in it, I eventually started tasting like sugar in my water. My taste buds were just all off. Even after the quarantine period, it still probably took about a month, maybe 2 months before I trusted myself to season other people's foods. Because I would not, I'm taste testing as I'm cooking, and I wouldn't taste the salt. And then I'd finish cooking and all I could taste was salt. And again, it was like that for about 2 months. I do live in a cross-generational house. I am a single mom. And so my fear that I asked the physician was, obviously I have my kids. They're only with me. They're not going anywhere. How do I prevent them from catching it, or what do I do if they have it, right? And the only thing that they really just said was that kids are kind of resilient, so just keep an eye on them. I'm not a doctor. I did not have them tested for COVID because, again, I had already had it at this point, so I can't take them to get tested. But I do believe my son did have it. He had symptoms like flu-like symptoms off and on. My daughter did not. She seemed to be fine throughout the whole time. She was up under me the whole time. It was kind of one of those things that I just couldn't really prevent, but she didn't have any symptoms or experiences with it. Things that surprised me. So the public health in my city gave me a phone call the very next day after I was released after I left the emergency room. And she kind of said the same thing that the physician said, to quarantine 10 days from the first symptom. But she also said to stay quarantined until at least 24 hours of that symptom being gone. So if you had a fever, stay home until that fever is gone, but 24 hours after that as well. She was the only person that had told me that. I also spoke with my primary care physician, who just said stay home for 10 days. That was it. None of them had any suggestions or ideas of what I should be doing while I am home. And by that, I mean, like I said, Dr. Google said to walk more. Dr. Google said to take zinc and, make sure you're not laying on your side, and just random things. And nobody really knew what to do other than stay home. That was pretty much it. So I did stay home. It wasn't a hard task, honestly. I was tired. That was probably the biggest thing that I realized. I was tired. I lost about 20, 25 pounds during that 10-day period. Again, I was tracking it because I was already trying to lose weight, and I had lost the weight, and I'm like, God, I wasn't eating. Nothing tastes good to me. Everything was bad. I would make soup and I would just drink the broth, and my daughter would eat the noodles and stuff. Because I couldn't taste it. I wasn't interested in it. I just slept. Even after my quarantine period was over, I had cravings for like mod pizza. And anything that I did that required me to leave the house also required me to add at least 2 hours onto that trip. Because honestly, by the time I left my house to go to my car, I was tired. So I'd sit in my car for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'd go to wherever it is I'm going, and I'd sit in my car for another 15, 20 minutes, get out, come back. I mean, it was the same thing over and over again. So at least 2 hours, maybe 3 hours to go anywhere. I did that one time, and then I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm not leaving the house until I have the energy to. The other thing that I noticed is like walking. I couldn't really walk long distance. I mean, I couldn't walk short distance either. I live in a split level house, and I could not walk from the upstairs of the house to the downstairs of the house without stopping and taking a break. So oftentimes I would sit there and sit on the steps as I'm sliding down these steps. I just sit there and wait until my body could allow me to do something else. I also noticed I had back pains. I don't know if that's a symptom. I just know that's what it was. I would be sitting up and I'd have a sharp pain in my back. Things that I notice now, I'm experiencing hair loss, which I have also read is COVID related. And by hair loss, I mean, I will brush my hair and huge chunks of hair is just coming out. Or I'll just touch my hair and I'll get a clump of hair. I'm not sure how long that's going to persist because it's a new experience and it's a new thing. But that's what I've realized. Vaccinated, I was not. I don't know. I'm fortunate and grateful that I had, in my opinion, a mild case of COVID. If it wasn't for my primary care physician, I wouldn't have gone and gotten tested. I also wouldn't have gone to the emergency room at all. Hindsight, it's probably a good thing that I did because I did have pneumonia as well. But again, I'm more of a naturopath, so I probably would have just stayed home for the 10 days anyways and just rested it off without any medications. I am grateful again that my experience was so mild because I do realize that there are people that don't get that experience. Some people have it 10 times worse. But that's my experience. Like I said, I still feel symptoms of it. I'm probably like 98% normal, 98% back to what I was doing before. It's not 100%. The only thing that it really made me realize is I need to take kind of better care of my life and myself and what I'm doing. Again, like I said, I have been tired lately and I'm like, that is 100% what I eat. If I'm eating junk, it kind of weighs you down. And then in addition to that, having something that attacks your respiratory system as you're eating junk, it just doesn't add together. So that's my story. That's my COVID experience. If you learned something, if you liked it, if you experienced similar things, comment down below. Thank you to everybody that had commented on videos and well wishes and saying, I hope you get better. Again, it is not an experience that I wish on my enemy, but it's what I went through. And I am grateful that it was not as bad as it could be. I'm truly blessed for that. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I'd love to answer them. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert on anything. I am just sharing my story with you, and I hope you receive something out of it. And I'm going to see you in the next video.